Well, in an opinion piece earlier this week, one D.C. writer says that he will never vote for Joe Biden because the president is persecuting pro-lifers. Writing in the Washington Examiner, Timothy P. Carney says, in part, quote, Biden has made it clear that he doesn't merely disagree with pro-lifers, but that he hates us and wants to sic the federal government on us. Carney also points to the Department of Justice bringing charges against pro-lifer Mark Houck. He was arrested after allegedly blocking access to an abortion business. Carney notes the pro-lifer was actually arrested for responding to provocation from a pro-abortion activist who had shoved his son and mocked, quote, pedophile priests. Now, the author of that piece joins us now. Timothy P. Carney is a senior columnist for the Washington Examiner and a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Tim, welcome back. Great to see you again. In your column, you talk about President Biden, and you note several Republicans have said they cannot, in good faith, vote for Donald Trump if he's the party's nominee in 2024. Tim, talk to us more about that. And also curious, I mean, did you write this piece at least partially for them?
Yeah, so I often criticize Donald Trump for the things he did, especially at the end of his first term regarding the 2020 election, where he lost and he refused to accept. And when I comment online that I really don't want to vote for Donald Trump and I find his actions unacceptable, a lot of people say, okay, great, so then vote for Joe Biden. And I've been hearing that enough for years that I thought it was time for me to respond and say that Joe Biden isn't just somebody I disagree with on certain issues. He is his actions, especially in his term as president, have gone far beyond anything that I would find acceptable in a candidate. Even if I were to cross party lines, I'm generally vote Republican. I would not vote for a Democrat who treats pro-lifers this way.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, I used Mark Houck as an example of a pro-lifer who was persecuted by the DOJ. We remember that story very well. What is at the root of the targeting of pro-lifers, do you think? And where do you see this going?
So I think that's a great question, because the implicit argument that sometimes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris make out loud, and often they make through their actions, is that opposing abortion isn't merely a political position they reject, but that it's outside the bounds of what is acceptable. That is, you know, you and I, we could debate tax rates, we could debate this. We would never debate whether slavery is okay. If somebody was running for office saying slavery is okay, or if a voter is articulating that, that's not acceptable. So some things are no longer acceptable or never were. I think that Harris and Biden have made it clear that they consider the pro-life view to be unacceptable. It is akin to being, believing in Jim Crow. It is racist. It's outside the bounds. And so that is why they feel fine, not sticking up for the crisis pregnancy centers. Elizabeth Warren, Democratic senator, has said we need to shut them down. That is why when Trump says, "Oh, I'm not against all Republicans, just the MAGA extremists," and he includes in that any pro-lifer. And that is why they created what they call the Reproductive Rights Task Force at the Justice Department. And as far as we can tell, the purpose of that was to go after anybody they could plausibly charge with a violation of the FACE Act, the clinics, fair access to clinics entrance. And so this is really a weaponizing the federal government against pro-lifers because they don't see them as legitimate. They don't see us as legitimate.
And Tim, what do you think we can do?
So, the key thing is, I think, as journalists, we need to keep shedding light on this. I think that pro-lifers need to not back down, because a huge part of this is an effort to back down. You look at Mark Houck and how his life was turned upside down. He won the case, obviously. It was very clear that he was in the right, that the Planned Parenthood volunteer who harassed him and led to the altercation was in the wrong, that the Justice Department in prosecuting him was in the wrong. But it's not fun to have agents show up and arrest you in front of your family, to have to go through that lawsuit. So part of the purpose of this is to intimidate us and force us to stop taking action against abortion. And the key thing now is to not let that work, to continue to stand up for the unborn and to continue to call out the Biden Justice Department for its abuse of power.
Tim, we have probably about a minute or so left, but I'm curious, what else are you working on, and what else maybe do you have your eye on?
Well, so I think that we have a broader cultural problem here that's anti-family. I'm finishing up a book now called Family Unfriendly to describe how America's culture is not in favor of family. That's one reason millennials are having so few babies, why we have a falling birth rate. And part of it is just sort of norms and customs about how much parents have to helicopter over their kids. But part of it, I really think, is a philosophical and spiritual problem that we don't see humans as good, and that you don't think that we have an obligation to help people raise kids. And so this, I really think, needs to be turned around in America. It's shown by the fact that millennials say, no, it's too hard to raise kids. Yes, it's always been hard, but our culture makes it harder in all sorts of ways, politics, economics, but mostly just the norms, the expectations, and our understanding of what a human is and how valuable you are, even from the time that you're a little baby who doesn't contribute to the household, but that you're infinitely valuable at any stage.
Absolutely. We're all blessings. Tim, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you.